Dexerdry is on a roll. Dexerdry continues to introduce new profiles of our product to give you even more options to achieve the dry zone. Each box of Dexerdry contains this orange card with a QR code. It takes you to Dexerdry.com, where you'll find all our written and video instructions. This video explains how to install Dexerdry properly in a perpendicular installation. Be sure to properly flash the ledger board where it meets the house. In a Dexerdry perpendicular deck, we start with a square edge board and route a groove to match the Dexerdry profile. Always cut the Dexerdry drip edge around the perimeter of the deck, as seen in our drip edge video. Determine the proper overhang of the first board and mark the frame. With the first board now square to the house, we're ready to install. We'll be using top mount screws and clear caulk throughout the installation. Apply a thick bead of caulk along the ledger board and against the house where the first board is going to be installed. Drop the first board into the 2 beads of caulk and install using the top mount screws. Make sure it's square to the house where we marked earlier. Make sure the first board is completely screwed down before attaching the first piece of Dexerdry. We took a piece of scrap decking and routed out the grooves a little larger than we needed. This comes in handy throughout the job when installing Dexerdry against the previously installed deck board. Proper caulking procedures are essential when installing Dexerdry. Here we show how to caulk all 4 corners of the Dexerdry flange before inserting it back into the groove. Starting underneath the Dexerdry flange in the corner, apply a healthy bead of caulk along the ledger board as shown earlier. Then start on top of the Dexerdry flange and apply a healthy bead of caulk against the house where the deck board is going to be placed. Finish by caulking the other end of the Dexerdry in all 4 corners. We're ready to install the next board with the drip edge pre-cut into the end that overhangs the deck. With everything properly caulked as shown, the drip edge is unnecessary at the house. Coiled Dexerdry relies completely on proper compression. Here we show a Stanley board bender and a piece of scrap. Place the piece of scrap between the Stanley board bender and the board that's about to be compressed. Another tool we recommend for a Dexerdry installation for proper compression is the Dexerdry hardwood wrench. The tool can be utilized for double or single joists. Lock the tool into place and it keeps the board properly compressed while we install the first set of screws. The deck wrench can be taken apart to be used for either left-hand or right-hand applications. We'll be using both of these tools, the Stanley board bender and the Dexerdry deck wrench, throughout this installation. With the second board now properly compressed and screwed down, we're ready to install the next piece of Dexerdry. Be sure to caulk all 4 corners of both ends and at the house as shown earlier. We use the beater board throughout the entire installation, whether we're using the rubber mallet or the proper compression tools. The beater board prevents damaging the edges of the deck boards. Continue all proper caulking procedures at the house and at the ends of the Dexerdry. In this instance, we're going to use the deck wrench as a helper. If this deck was 20 feet long, the hardwood wrench would be holding the very end of the board in tight. Now we'll use the Stanley board bender to compress the center of the board. Attaching the deck boards from the center of the board and working your way outward prevents bowing or arching of the deck boards. Improvise where needed to protect the edge of the deck board when using the compression tool when you're nearing the end of the deck board installations. We will be unable to use our compression tools to compress the last board. Install the last piece of Dexerdry. Seat it firmly with the piece of scrap deck we made earlier, and caulk the ends of the Dexerdry as shown, all 4 corners, on both ends. We prefer caulking the Dexerdry flange itself as opposed to the grooves of the deck boards. Continue the caulking procedures shown earlier on the ledger board and against the house. Our last board is already prepped to be installed. Unable to use the compression tools for the last deck board, we take another piece of scrap 2x4, a 5-inch ledger lock screw, and we screw it to the box to compress the deck board against the Dexerdry flanges. With all the deck boards properly compressed and screwed down, we're ready to clean up the areas that have excess caulk and Dexerdry. Check the ends of the boards for any gaps and caulk where needed. Peel away any excess caulk on the surface of the deck or at the house. We like to put the Cortex plugs in before any rain might come along or any debris might get into those holes. Properly flashing the Dexerdry deck where it meets the house is extremely important. We'll be using a piece of copper flashing, bent as an L, 5/4 at the bottom and about 3.5 inches against the wall. 3 beads of caulk are applied, one in the corner, one along the deck surface, and one along the house. We want to make sure we cover the wall completely before we put our trim board against the house. Utilizing one piece of square edge decking, we ripped it to use it for our trim piece at the house and for our picture frame detail. The Coiled Dexerdry perpendicular deck installation is complete. Instructions for the Dexerdry picture frame are available at our website. Be sure to watch all of our Dexerdry installation videos. Thanks for watching.